need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? Oh. What? Like a handgun for personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle and a lot of ammo. A gun?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooted cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
Hey, good evening. This is PrimerTime. My name is Michael.
And I am Nick. Michael, how
Nick,
are you doing?
I think we got another show playing over us.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I can't hear it.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But I just heard our bumper, so I think we're live.
I believe we're live as well. We got those other boys yapping over us.
Yeah, I can hear them a little bit in the background. So I don't know. I think we just do our best and keep on trucking.
I hear that. Well, let's try it. So you get a chance to play with anything this week?
Actually, I did. I was able to actually pick up the very same Henry AR-7 survival rifle that we talked about in last week's show.
That's awesome. Tell me about it a little bit.
So basically, it is a semi-automatic 22 long rifle that is a collapsible or modular type semi-automatic rifle that breaks down and everything fits inside the ABS plastic stock.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Those are pretty neat. They're waterproof stock. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it's waterproof. I would say it's a water-resistant stock. Any time that you're working with plastic, it's very, very difficult to go ahead and make it waterproof, mainly because there's no type of gasket or rubber seal that goes around the end of the butt cap. So it does tend to, when submerged, I think it will take on a little bit of water.
Okay, well, that sounds like a pretty nifty idea right there. I've had my own concerns about the sturdiness of that item, but you've put your hands on it and you've actually assembled it and played with it a little bit, and it doesn't have that feel that I was worried about, does it?
No, actually, I think what's important for our listeners to know is that it is marketed as a bug out rifle or a survival rifle. This is essentially a no frills semi-automatic rifle, and it's in a very small caliber. So this is effective for maybe self-defense in the sense of, hey, I needed to shoot somebody, to keep them away from injuring me or my family. This is something that I needed to grab, to take camping or backpacking. And then in the sense that it's good for taking down small game, maybe squirrels, rabbits, something of that nature. Certainly.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say it's certainly not something that you're going to, go ahead and invest a lot of money in getting optics put onto it. It's just something that you're going to utilize the peep sights for, and maybe 50 to 75 yards maximum.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jeez, 50 to 70 yards maximum. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, how does this fit in the back of a pickup truck?
So giving you an idea, the overall length is 31 inches, and when broken down and into its carrying configuration, everything fits into a space of 16 inches, probably by about 6.5 to 7 inches. So if you got a rectangle size space, about that big, you can take that anywhere.
Well, that's a pretty handy little item. I'm always kind of fascinated by things that are designed for the truck or for a certain niche market like that. I've really found those to be interesting. Now, the AR7, it's got a pretty storied history. That's originally an Armalite product, is it not?
It is, and it's gone through a couple different variations, and then, like I said, most recently it's been produced by Henry Rifles, and this one is the name is the Henry U.S. Survival Rifle.
Now, with this, there's no room to store any ammunition in stock other than the original magazine that comes with it. Is that correct?
Right, and it comes with two magazines. So you load up the two 8-round magazines. You've got 16 rounds with you right then and there. One thing that I would probably end up doing at some point is I will buy a nylon type pouch, and I will attach that to the stock, and I will carry a couple 50-round boxes of ammunition for it. So, I mean, you figure that 50-round box of 22 fits in the palm of your hand. You put two of those, and you've got enough ammunition to last you for a few days at least.
That's pretty good. And now that rifle's not necessarily built for something that's for day in, day out 10/22 style planking, is it?
No, I don't think so. And here's the thing: when you take a look at a 10/22 and its design versus the Henry Survival Rifle, one thing that you're going to notice right away about the 10/22 is it's a purpose-built semi-automatic rifle, and it's got dedicated dedicated features for the shooter who's actually going to spend some time at the range. It's got decent sights. It has it's basically improved by the use of a scope, and you can get magazines and configurations. So they have the BX25 magazines. You got your regular box magazine.
I'll tell you what, I'm a fan of those BX25 magazines. Those are a good sweet feeding 25-round magazine, black polymer, good lightweight, good sturdy construction. That is an exclusive Ruger item, and they're worth the $25 they cost.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's when you take a look at what you're getting in that BX25 for the 10/22 versus the 8-round magazine that you're going to have to buy from Henry. The Henry magazines are about $19 a piece for the 8-rounders, and then I think you can buy them in a 2-pack, which I think brings the price up to $32 or $36. So yeah, being proprietary is not so good, as we know from other things.
That's right. Well, that kind of brings up something. There's a firearms company called Kingsville, and they're making a 10/22 copy that looks like an M1 Garand. And so that's to the other extreme. And similar extremes would be that it's priced at $800.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a M1 Garand hop-up kit turns a 10/22 into a $800 or $900 item.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think here's the thing. This is a purpose-built rifle, and it's going to do what it's designed to do. Just to kind of give you an idea, you talk about the sights. Literally, it's a peep sight where the front sight at the end of the barrel is a blade sight, so you can move it left or right inside of the housing to adjust for windage, and the rear sight you can basically take out one screw, flip it over for a larger aperture, flip it over for a smaller aperture, making it a little bit more accurate. But that what you see is what you get. I think at first attempt, it took me 1 minute to assemble the rifle from the stock. After doing it 2-3 times, I think I'm pretty much down to the 25-30 second. That's exactly what
And
it
now,
is.
is this something that takes a whole lot of hand-to-eye coordination, or is this something that you could do in the dark?
You could actually do this in the dark. One of the things that's unique about this is everything has its place. So it breaks down into three main components. So you have the stock, you have the action, and which actually includes the magazine. But the action itself rests in the stock, offset of center to the right side to accommodate all the parts once they're stored internal to the stock. But it attaches by a bolt and a wing nut. So once that's set in place, you go ahead and take your barrel, and it's got its nut that attaches to the action, and that's all you do to assemble the rifle. It's realistically that quick. Two parts of assembly. You twist a wing nut till it's tight for the action, and then you twist and you have the nut for the bolt to attach. That's it.
That's a pretty hot little setup.
Yeah.
That kind of brings us to another issue we had to focus tonight. Looks like Kel-Tec has themselves patent on a high-capacity 22 long rifle pistol magazine. Kel-Tec has come up with a patent for a 22 long rifle magazine that holds 33 rounds. And it's not just an adaptation of their PMR 30 22 Magnum magazine. This is a brand new magazine. Now, noticing that it's from Kel-Tec, they've got this wonderful magazine, and if their production record is any sort of indicator, they'll probably have the pistol that goes along with it due sometime in 2020.
Yeah. So in this magazine, like I said, it holds 30 rounds of 22 Winchester Magnum rimfire, or 22 mag. They have the patent on it, and it's a double stack magazine. So they're talking that the 22 long rifles, they can get a capacity of 33 rounds.
That's right, and that's something that we'd spoken about in the past couple of weeks, is the lack of a high capacity 22 long rifle pistol. And if they can put 33 rounds into this magazine, they may have a winner. But it being Kel-Tec, there's a problem, because Kel-Tec has kind of a poor history with the longevity of their products. I'm thinking that they get this done, and they get it done right, and then they license it to Ruger, is probably what their plan is, considering that the Ruger LCP series of pistols, their LCP and the LC9, are basically copies of the Kel-Tec pocket series of pistols. Kel-Tec's PF9 and PA380 and their 32 ACP, whatever they call their PA32. Those are all basically just the same design that Ruger copied to make their LCP and LC9 series. So I could see that this item being copied by Ruger, or being appropriated by Ruger for a design.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm interested to find out is this is something that Kel-Tec was showcasing at SHOT Show, or is this something that they just released to coincide with it?
I think this was released a few days before SHOT Show. They did premiere the magazine at the SHOT Show. Now, you start looking at Kel-Tec's other high-capacity handgun, their PMR 30, which I'll tell you, they retail for $399, and if you can find one for $650, it's a bargain, because you can't find them anywhere. And that seems to be something that people want to put their hands on. Yeah. Now you're also looking at, the cost of 22 Magnum. Well, that's the same price as 5.56.
Yeah. And we're talking about bargains, talking about 5.56. I wanted to go ahead and get it out there to our listeners. If they are in the market for an AR right now, I just got an email alert this morning. You go ahead and take yourself over to classicfirearms.com. They are selling a Bear Creek Arsenal, which comes out of North Carolina, flat top AR platform with a hard case for $440. That is by far
$440 is
right.
cheap.
That is the most inexpensive complete setup that I have seen in quite a while. That is the sub $500 AR for anybody that's out there that's interested.
Well, and not only is it a sub $500 AR, it's a sub $500 assembled AR.
Right. This is not like a strip lower or a strip upper. This is ready to rock, getting sent to your FFL for you to pick up. It comes with a hard case. I believe it even comes with a magazine. And yeah, all you got to do is put on a rear sight because it comes with the A2 style front sight post, and you are ready to go.
So you're looking at $40 for a rear sight and $30 for ammo.
Yeah, that's it. There's your $500 AR to less whatever you pay for the FFL.
That's not a bad deal right there. I did see that Palmetto State has the SIG P938 right now for sale again. It's the two-tone version, and they want $499.99. So
Yeah.
if you're in the market for one of those, grab one now because those will be gone by the morning.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was actually I was really surprised between the last show and yesterday. Palmetto State has gone ahead and redesigned their website. I would say that it's a little less user friendly than it had been in the past, and
It is not user friendly anymore.
yeah, and I was also kind of dismayed to see that a lot of their prices went up. Things that had been reduced significantly over the holidays, their prices jumped back up to full price. So, if you're looking for a specific type of strip lower, you better jump on it now because they still have one of them, and that's $49.99. Says it's in stock, but like I said, if you're gonna go ahead and get something, I believe that they have two complete lowers that are set up and ready to go, but they are they're not as cheap as they had been. One of them is 169, and another one, you got 169, 159, and 129, depending upon the configuration and of the hand guard, the trigger guard, and the buttstock. So, you take your choice of what's available. I think that people are starting to see these low prices, and they're buying up parts left and right. So I think we're going to run into the summertime where there's probably a production going at full capacity, but it's not going to meet the demand.
Well, I'll tell you, here's something to look at. We've got an economy that seems to be rapidly imploding on our fellow citizens, and we're coming up on traditionally a firearm purchasing bonanza time because this is traditionally income tax return time.
Yeah, now, income tax return, you mean gun money.
Gun money. Now, let's talk about the gun money that's going to be shifted and stolen from the consumer and turned into healthcare money. This could have some negative impacts on the market.
It could, but I think one of the things that a lot of folks have to take into account right now is that if you haven't been saving your pennies, you may want to do that. And there's going to be some, I predict in the bathtub months for gun purchases, which can be anywhere from April all the way up through end of summer. There's probably going to be very little in terms of innovation that's going to be offered out there. So you're going to see a lot of things on a modified, Winchester Model 70 action. Those are the kind of things that you're going to see. Maybe folks that have the disposable income available, maybe they're going to go out there and go get something that's from a custom shop. But I can't see the manufacturers going out there and offering things to the average consumer that's going to just entice them to purchase a new firearm. I think that folks out there right now that, coming back off the holidays, a couple people are paying some bills right now. And I think the manufacturers know that. And I think that they're not going to waste time in pushing something to market that a lot of people aren't going to be able to buy.
Well, I see a lot of things being pushed in that similar vein of trying to get all the money that you can right now. It seems that the Zip 22 I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was sort of an innovative design, innovative in the fact that nothing else looked like it. It wasn't necessarily a good design. It was actually sort of a dangerous design, in my view. Puts the charging handle forward of the muzzle.
Yeah, that would kind of make it
It's a
kind of makes it a
it's a
bullpuck
poor
style. Yeah.
it's a poor design. It has there have been negligent discharges that have injured people using this, and I don't think the design of the weapon actually lends itself to friendly use. But those seem to be kind of at a blowout right now. Those were about $300 when they were brand new, and I think you can find them for about 149 bucks right now. The problem is they do not work with the magazine that is supplied, and the magazine that they say that it does work with, you can't get.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of
buyer beware on that one.
Kind of out of reach. Yeah. So Michael, what can you tell me about the Ismash factory coming into the States? You know anything about that? You heard anything about that?
I know a little bit about that. A lot of uproar came over the fact that Kalashnikov concern, which has been hit by the wonderful sanctions from our government on the Russians, that led to a drying up of the Russian AK-47 market and AK derivative market in the United States. Kalashnikov concern has partnered with RWC International and is basically loaning the Kalashnikov name to RWC. RWC will be building AK-47s branded as Kalashnikov concerned weapons in the United States. And that's RWC is the company that's doing that. They're a large machine shop out of, I believe they're out of North Carolina.
Okay.
And it looks to be a fairly large contract. It is not a Kalashnikov factory that's opening up. It is an established American machine shop that has taken on the Kalashnikov name.
Okay. So is this going to be something that you feel, or in your opinion, is going to resurrect the 5.45 in terms of skirting any kind of sanctions that have been leveled against Russian business entities?
Probably not. Just due to the fact that the main drawing point for the 5.45 by 45 and the, I'm sorry, 5.45 by 39 and the 7.62 by 39, these two rounds have their main, I would say their main selling point is in their low cost of the ammunition. There for a while, back in the early 80s, you could get 20 rounds of 7.62 by 39 for $1. Yeah. Now that's running near $7 now. So while the rifles may be great and wonderful quality, my question is for the availability of the consumable ammunition. And
therein lies the problem.
Right. There's no steel-cased ammunition factory. There's no Tula ammunition factory that they're getting ready to fire up in the hills of Tennessee or anything like that. So I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, we talked a little bit about SHOT Show, and we talk about the AKs coming to be produced in the States. I want to talk about Mossberg for a second. Some of the stuff that they brought out at SHOT Show.
I'm not real familiar with anything that Mossberg brought out.
Okay, so they've got a couple different configurations of 22 long rifle that they're bringing forth in new platforms. And I wouldn't say it's exactly innovation, because it's going to be very difficult for Mossberg to chip away at Ruger's 10/22 market share. But they're actually doing something kind of unique in the sense that they've come out with two specific lines of weapons capable of firing 22 long rifle, and they call them the Blaze. So first set is it's a sporter type, magazine fed 22 long rifle. And that's got 5 different models in it. But what I think is actually pretty cool is they're making a faux AK-47 that fires 22 long rifle. So in a sense, it's an AK faux T7.
I like that. Is now we've got that German company, GSG German Sport Group. And they're well known for making replicas of famous weapons in 22 long rifle. I wonder how this compares to theirs.
Well, I would say that this one it looks like an East German Bakelite style AK. You can tell it's got one that's got the Tapco style stock in the fore end. It's got some that have the East German style wood, but for all intents and purposes, if you give it to a news reporter, they're going to tell you it's an AK-47. Um, so they have capability of having either 10 round or 25 round magazines, and these are actually priced below $400. So I thought that
Okay,
that
now
was
this is
kind of
this is a
interesting.
Mossberg product.
Yeah, it's called the
This is
Blaze
correct.
47.
Okay, now I've got a question because Mossberg also had their own. I believe they call them the Model 715, which is their
AR
sort of
style.
sporterized
Yeah,
AR in AR-esque because it does not operate like an AR-15. It
yeah,
actually
exactly.
resembles a poorly drawn AR-15.
Right.
I wonder if this product from Mossberg is going to run down those lines.
I'm not sure. I think that when you take a look at what the 715 is, you know exactly it's going for the look of an AR. It's not going exactly for the function or for the capabilities of an AR, but it's going to a crowd that may want to look like they have the AR platform rifle, but doesn't have the cash for it. When you look at their new Blaze style rifles, it doesn't look like anything other than, to me, a hunting rifle. It comes in a couple of different configurations in terms of patterning on stocks. You got straight black synthetic. You have, a couple different types of camo, real tree type patterns. And then you also have something that looks like a Cryptek pattern, which is one of the camouflage patterns that the Army was actually considering using as a replacement for what's called the universal camouflage pattern, or the what we commonly refer to as the Army combat uniform. So there's just some minor variations. It all looks about the same length. It looks the same configuration, but that looks around $200. So if you're looking for something that's a lightweight rimfire, you don't exactly like the look or feel of a 1022. Yeah, Mossberg and Sons is an American company for all intents and purposes. That might be something people want to look at.
I'm taking a look at it. It's an interesting looking item right there.
So I
I'll
think
say
that,
that it doesn't necessarily call me.
right, and I think that
Uh,
if you have $200 burning a hole in your pocket and you want something new, buy something old. It may be worth a look. I'm not going to say that it's the bee's knees, but what do you expect it to do? You expect it to go bang when you pull the trigger? I'm sure it does that.
I would hope so because this is a problem that we've had with Mossberg 715s um, prior to that.
Right.
Hey, it looks like we got a question out there, and this is right up your alley. What do you got for a good spotting scope?
Oh, the list is wide and distinguished. So when you're taking a look at spotting scopes, I think you kind of have to go from the question of what realm of price are we looking into? If we're looking at something that's something that the average American is going to purchase, we're probably looking in the Nikon, or we're looking in the Bushnell area. If we're looking at something for somebody who is dedicated to making sure that they have the best optics available, then you're going to look towards Swarovski or Zeiss, maybe even Leica. So those are the type of the two different avenues that I would say you could go. If you're not wanting to put a ton of money into it, Bushnell has some higher power scopes, spotting scopes specifically. You can actually go. You can go into a couple different areas with that. I think that it really depends on what you want to use it for. So
Well, I tell you what, that seems to be one of those kind of questions like how fast do you want to go? Speed costs. So how fast do you want to go?
well, yeah, and you know what? Like I said, it all depends on what the purpose you're using it for. If you're using it to survey land, uh, you know, during hunting season, yeah, that's probably that'll work. If you're using it to correct somebody on a bench, that's that's something where I would probably want to go with the Leica or the Swarovski. So
And you can get into this for a good budget. Let's say the Nikon. You can get into that for let's say somewhere in the neighborhood of $100.
yeah, Bushnell, yeah, for $100. Actually, you may even be able to pick those up at Wally. You're going to look at something in the Zeiss or the Leica or the Nikon. I mean, you can even with Nikon, you can get up into the big bucks category. Even looking at the difference between the Monarch product lines and the Pro Staff product lines, significant difference in quality and significant difference in price. I can tell you from a guy who owns a Monarch scope, uh, purchased that for about $750, and it is a 3 to 12 by 56 with the illuminated reticle. Um, so yeah, the Nikon can definitely get up there in price, although they do have a market for some of the lower cost optics as well.
Well, $100 is that's probably about the entry point on anything anymore. Once you're coming into this game.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people call me a snob when it comes to my taste in optics because I'm more willing to say, hey, invest your money in the glass because a better sight picture is going to give you a better opportunity to hit what you're aiming at. Some people go the other route and say, hey, invest all your money into the gun itself, and then you're going to go ahead and put up something on, that may not be able to give you the best light transmission under low light, conditions. I don't know. It's a toss up. I've seen glass that performs well for a lot of money, and I've seen glass that performs less than well for a lot of money. I think you kind of you have to do your research, just like with everything else that we talk about.
Now, optics can be a you get what you pay for option right there. Now, do you have any kind of experience with the lower end hollow sights or red dots?
Well, actually, funny you mentioned that. Bushnell actually puts out what is not really considered to be a lower end, although less expensive than say something like a EOTech. So when you're talking holograph sights, I think it's important for people to know that what a holograph sight does is not what a lot of people think it does, which is project a laser or a beam onto your target. A holograph sight has a internal system where it replicates a, basically a 65 minute of angle dot with a point in it, and it gives you an opportunity to place that and co-witness it with whatever sight you're using. It doesn't project any image onto a target, which is, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions out there. But Bushnell does make something like that, and Bushnell is actually partnered in a sense with what is now an L3 product, which is the EOTech.
Now, you happen to be an EOTech holder, is that correct?
Yeah, yet recently I am, and it actually is an older model, but the point of the matter is it still works and it does what it's designed to do and give you a sight picture in less than optimum conditions. So especially in low light or even when you were using a set of night vision goggles, as the military frequently does. So it's another nice to have. It is by no means is it necessary for you to have in order to operate your weapon at night. But it does make it quite a bit easier, especially as you build familiarity with it and you practice with it, just like everything else.
Now, this is not a cheap item, is
Oh
that
no, no,
correct?
no. You're actually looking at some of the more updated models. You're looking well into the $800 to $1,000 price range.
Woo!
Some of the
That's
older
nice.
models, you can go ahead and get into you know, you can get into the lower 400s, 350 for some of their older models. But like I said, you go ahead and invest that kind of money onto something that you can slap on a M1913 standard rail system. It's only going to help you. I doubt that it would hinder you in any sense of the word, other than if the batteries were to fail. And speaking of if batteries were to fail, it takes a very rare type of battery, N cell, if you've ever seen or heard of that. Had to pick some up at Home Depot. It was the only place that I found it.
And what's the damage on that?
It's a $5.95 purchase, and you get 2 N cell batteries for it. They actually look like the little brother of a double A, the shorter, fatter little brother.
And those run how much?
Yeah, $5.95 to get you 2 of them from Home Depot.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah. So when you take a look at it, you not wanting to have to worry about batteries running out. A lot of folks that I know go the other route, and they go with something by Trigicon. So they come out with the ACOG, and that's the Advanced Combat Optic Gun Sight, and it uses a slightly radioactive element called tritium, and that produces.
Woohoo for tritium! That comes out of New Mexico. That's an American product right there.
There you go. So it projects a image in the reticle that is visible in low light or no light, and I actually, when it comes down to it, I prefer the Trigicon over the EOTech for that very purpose, and that in the sense that the Trigicon scopes actually can go all the way up to the 56 millimeter objective lenses. So the 4x32 is traditionally what the U.S. Army uses in the ACOG. So you got four times magnification, and you got a 32 millimeter objective lens, giving you a pretty decent field of view.
So the ACOG that has a 56 millimeter lens, that's letting in an entirely just a truckload of light.
Well, yeah, and that's not actually an ACOG. That's actually from their sporting line, and that's called an AccuPoint. And within the AccuPoint line, they've got different reticles, so different images where the crosshairs would be. You've got a triangle, you've got a dot with the, just all kinds of configurations, basically whatever they can come up with. But you've got it in a couple different colors. You've got an amber, you've got a green, and you've got a red. And that's all dependent upon, what color you feel more comfortable with being illuminated over the top of a target.
Have you taken the lower cost, or taken a look at the lower cost alternative to that, which would be a night sight setup? Now we've got several out there. You've got Trigicon night sights, you've got TrueGlow night sights. There's a lot of them out there. But have you thought about or considered the ultimate low buck approach, which is getting a tube of tritium paint and doing sights with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't get into the to the chemical properties of that, or the radioactive properties, because they do come with a warning. One of the things that's interesting is those are actually prohibited from exporting to other countries due to the certain technology that goes into making them. So State Department has prohibitions on sending those to other folks. I specifically couldn't order any of those while I was in Germany. So thanks, State Department, for screwing soldiers out of being able to get decent rifle sights. We love you for that.
Well, that's the least of your worries of what they're screwing you out of when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, you take a look and you see what's available, and you really got to know what it is that you want to do with it. If you're taking just a couple of shots a year, and you're doing it during daylight hunting hours, you're probably 3 to 9 by 40, scope that you can pick up at Walmart. That's probably going to fit the bill, and that's probably all you need. But if you're going to do stuff like serious game management, and you're going to be hunting for wild boar in the middle of the night, and you've got very, very little light available, you're probably going to go with something that's a little bit more expensive because of the light transmission.
Well, I'm going to tell you, shooting at night, yeah, it's best to get as much light on your subject as you can get. And if you can get the scope that gives you a hand, even better. If you've got open sights, don't smoke.
Yeah. Well, you take a look at it. Some folks grow up using nothing but iron sights, and they can swear that they can hit a cigarette at 100 yards. I've seen it from the other end of the extreme, with an Iraqi setting up a cigarette and plugging it with an AK-47 at 100 yards, and the guy, could barely shoulder the rifle. So it all depends. You go back to the fundamentals of shooting, just muscle memory with shouldering the rifle, and being able to put the target at your crosshairs. And you just have to practice. I think we can't mention that enough. You have to practice. You have to become familiar. You have to develop the muscle memory in order for you to be able to do things repetitively and with very little thought involved.
Now, going into the muscle memory aspect of this, there's a new product that come out of the SHOT Show, and it's I don't have the name. I believe you've got the information on it there. It's a rifle stock that holds a pistol.
Okay, are you talking about the Glock?
Yeah, there's a rifle stock that holds a Glock pistol in the butt stock.
Right. So you're talking about the Mule Tactical.
Mule Tactical, and that's M period U period L period E period tactical.
Yep.
And they've come out with a what do they call that?
I don't know what they call it. They call it an adaptive storage stock. And basically,
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like they paid an Army captain to come up with that.
That's great. An adaptive storage mechanism for it. It almost sounds like the answer to a problem that hasn't ever been asked or that hasn't been discovered. I've seen many problems with this. The idea of having a handgun on your belt is your last chance. That's your last defense. You put that handgun into the stock of the rifle. If you lose the rifle, then you've lost the handgun as well.
Yeah, and it says that there's about 8,000 of these currently in production. So they did not exactly say what they're going to be able to produce every week. But I'll tell you, they do have it in Desert Tan. So
right, that's all that matters. They have it in Desert Tan, Coyote Brown, Flat Dark Earth, or what is it? Magpul Dark Green.
Yeah, and the MSRP on it is about $250. So you're interested, you look at muletac.com.
It's not necessarily anything that I'm after. I just thought it was a fairly interesting product. There seems to be a big push to get that last consumer dollar out there. And so just be aware and be wise as to what you spend your money on. And in being aware and being wise, that comes with being educated. And the most important part of firearms education is safety education. We're going to hit that real quick. Rule number 1, every firearm is always loaded until you visually and physically inspect that it is not. Open up the action, crack open the cylinder, crack it open, make sure that there is not a round in the chamber, there's not a round in the magazine. Rule number 2 is keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times until you're ready to fire. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and what's beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4 is the most important rule. Please keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Do not keep your finger inside the trigger guard until you are ready to fire.
Yeah, we can't stress that enough. So I think there's enough incidences out there every week for you to just be aware and be reminded that you stop following any one of those 4 tenets of firearm safety, and it can come back to beat you in the butt.
At the least, if you're lucky, it's the butt.
Yeah, if you get lucky.
We've recently seen a video. It was a police officer, I believe it was in North Carolina, who went into a shop, and there's a whole bunch of problems with this. The shop owner showed the officer a pistol. The shop owner proffered and gave the officer a loaded pistol. The officer did not check the pistol, and the officer blew his finger off. And he's currently in the process of suing the gun shop and suing the city and all that. So just be safe. This is something that could have been easily remedied by the officer following the safety directions and checking to see whether or not the pistol was loaded, checking the muzzle direction, and keeping his booger hook off the bang switch.
Well, see, now let's go into this for a second, because I see culpability on both sides. Because
absolutely, there's no way that the gun shop should have ever given them a loaded firearm.
Exactly. That is one of the things that I think that if you go into any firearm store, and if the attendant hands you a firearm and he doesn't open the action or pull back a bolt or whatever, if he doesn't do that,
upon you,
yeah,
he's your safety. You have to do it.
Right. He's putting it upon you. But I think that's a pretty good indication for you that it's a good time to leave that store, because they're not following basic safety protocol.
And you may not get that in a big box store. If you're looking at a firearm in a big box store, they may hand you a firearm that they don't clear, but that firearm also has a trigger guard on it, has a trigger lock on it.
Right. It may have that. It may have something sitting in the action, just preventing it from, like, especially if it's an AR series rifle, they put that little cap inside the.
But usually at a big box store, they're going to have some sort of trigger lock on it.
Yeah, something that goes through the magazine well and comes out of the ejection port. So yeah.
The staff at the big box store may not be savvy enough to be able to actually function check a weapon.
Yeah,
and that's very not. This kid was stocking. He was stocking sodas 10 minutes ago and putting up Crocs on aisle 5. You can't make all this kid's now. He's got to be an armorer as well. No, that doesn't happen. He makes $7 an hour.
Yeah, but then I turn around and I look at the cop involved. This is clearly a situation where the cop himself has failed in one of his basic tasks that he as a law enforcement officer is trained in, which is firearm safety. And I think he's looking for a payday right now, because to hear his lawyer's portion of the suit, it claims that the gun store was maliciously negligent in handing him a loaded firearm. Well, guess what, there, guy? You're the law enforcement agent. You've been trained in the proper application of firearms, and you yourself failed to do the basic safety steps required to render that weapon safe. So I
can't agree with you more, Nick. The safety is incumbent upon you. You are ultimately responsible for your safety, and this is something we try to get at with the theme of this show: buy a gun, because it is your last best way to say no, I do not comply. It's also your responsibility when you have a firearm to make sure you know how to use it, make sure it's safe around other people.
Yeah, well, when you take a look at, we've shown the video of the officer who went to the school and shot himself in the foot. Do you think any of the kids that were in that class when he offered to demonstrate the shotgun, do you think any of them wanted to be around when he demonstrated that?
Absolutely not, because when he pulled out the shotgun, every child said, "No, please don't."
And what that does is that has a detrimental effect on the psyche of those kids. Anytime somebody around them lifts, hoists, or shoulders a firearm in the future, that did irreparable damage to the psyche of those children.
Well, and this is something that we've got to look at. The focus and the thrust is on the children. And currently in New York State, home to the SAFE Act, and to Sheldon Silver, architect of the SAFE Act, who's now been arrested for corruption.
Herr Silber.
Yeah, that's right, Senor Silber.
Yes.
He's been arrested, but this has little to do with what I'm getting at. There's another addition to the New York SAFE Act that they'd like to amend, barring children from the age of 12 and under from being allowed into gun shows.
Yeah, Frau Rosenberg, another one of our fine New York legislators, would like.
That's a totally Irish name. Stop that.
Yes, for Chico O'Sullivan. So that is the.
So we've got 12-year-olds being banned from the possibility of attending a gun show. Now, I'm just kind of go out on a limb, and I'm going to guess that the people who are offering this legislation have never once been to a gun show themselves.
Well, actually, like I said, Michael, let's get out there for the folks. This is Linda B. Rosenthal, and she's a lawmaker from New York State, and she wants to prohibit children 12 and under from attending firearms demonstrations or gun shows in an effort to reduce gun violence. So that's interesting, because she represents the Hell's Kitchen of Manhattan, and she doesn't look like she's going to represent that demographic very well, looking at who she is. Maybe.
No, that seems to be a little out of place, does it not?
It does. I could be wrong, but maybe she empathizes with that population very well.
I don't know. Now we get into this whole idea of taking the children away from the gun show. This gets real close to the Eric Holder line of we have to we have to brainwash people
Yeah, we
against
have to
firearms.
change the perception of firearms. Yeah, it sounds like we got some music in the house. So, anyways, yeah, I think that when you take a look at it, she's actually trying to do something that was tried in 2013 in New York. Uh, you know, you take a look at it for what it is, folks. I mean, if you don't know who's out there trying to restrict your rights as a firearms owner, and you don't know what if it's a legislator and you don't know what comes after their name and what state they're from, you know, if you just take a look at them at the names that are associated with the modern gun control movement, it's a sad thing.
Feinstein,
Yeah,
Schumer, Lautenberg, Levine, Levy, always the same common denominator.
it is, and you know it's hard for some people to swallow. But when you take a look at it, there's a very very small minority in that Democratic Party that is actually believing in the Second Amendment right for folks to carry and bear arms. So
And Nick, this is something I've got a sort of a quandary in my mind about. Here we are on the anniversary of Auschwitz. You can't miss it because well, to be honest with you, there's a dead Jew on every page of the newspaper. That's all there is on the newspaper right now. It's commemorate the 6 million, blah blah blah, the same story over and over again. Yet people don't realize that the people who are pushing for gun control are the people who, back in the day, could have probably used a firearm.
well, and if they couldn't use a firearm, I think they would have benefited from the ability to have one. So, you know, take a look at this. When you as a firearms owner or a firearms enthusiast, when you're out there talking, don't just go out there and engage in conversations not knowing who your audience is. You know, take a step back. Listen to the biases or the prejudices that those who are talking about gun control have, because it's going to give you a good indication of who you're dealing with. And
And we've seen this come into play, and this is a question that, well, frankly, you ask it and you're the bad guy for asking a question, which to me makes the question that much more important. If a question scares you that much, it should be asked and it should be answered out loud in front of everybody. But
yeah, but that might not necessarily get your point across. And what I'm saying is you can have a debate about firearms with people, and you can have it in such a way that you can do very little of the talking, but you can restate the words of the person who is opposing your viewpoint, and you can actually let them defeat themselves in an open air argument. I've had to do that on more than one occasion. And
well, absolutely, I agree with giving people enough rope to hang themselves.
you can't say hang yourself. It's Holocaust Remembrance Week.
That's right. That's right. And give them enough rope to ash themselves. Now, I've got this issue with the 502 campaign in Washington State, and before that was passed, and Washington State's poorly thought out gun control law, which basically outlaws safety steps. Before that came out, there was a member of the Republican Party in Washington who brought up the issue of the Jewish influence in gun control, and this argument was shot down immediately. And when something's shot down like that, and you can't say anything about it, if something holds that much power to scare you, I believe that it should be brought out to light. And so,
yeah, the way
be aware of who your representative is, and this system is broken, but try to work it to your ability as best as you can. If you feel like it, call your senator, call your congressman. Don't tell them to not participate in these gun control schemes. It may have effect, it may not, but at least you did a little bit on your part. And just be aware of who your representative is and who they work for. Do you have a dual citizen in Congress representing you?
You know, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know about their legislators is who is out there representing another set of ideals and interests when they're supposed to be representing you.
That's right. And if you've got somebody who's got, well, basically a get out of jail free card, because if they've got the ability to screw things up royally here and then they can catch a midnight Gulfstream 5 to Tel Aviv, they're not working for you.
No, and like I said, I think we hit the nail on the head earlier. You know, we've put the bug in folks' ear, and you know, when you're talking to anybody who's wanting gun control, they're not wanting gun control in the sense of responsible firearms ownership and keeping firearms out of the hands of people who have a proven track record of doing wrong. They want to prevent you from having firearms. They want me to, you know, be prevented from having firearms. They thrive under this idea that the less guns that are out there, the less crime is had, when we've actually got studies to prove it. Take a look at Chicago, take a look at New York City, take a look at Los Angeles, take a look at you know, any place that's out there, Washington, D.C., that espouses the gun control ideology. You look at the types of violent crime that they have. You know, you take a look at a city of Washington, D.C., and the gun control advocates will tell you, well, in Texas, they have open, you know, all kinds of availability. Well, look at how many people you have in Texas as opposed to what you have in Washington, D.C. I'm going to venture to say.
I'll tell you, there's also, it's not just the amount of people, it's the culture that you've been brought up with. And this idea that gun control is all about crime is a ruse. The gun control is not about controlling guns or controlling crime or getting crime under or making people safe. It's all about providing for control. Because there's that wonderful, you know, on this Holocaust Remembrance Week, we're going to go with that poem that's first they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't a trade unionist and nobody stood up for me. And then they came for the artists, but I wasn't an artist and nobody stood up for me. That one, well, that's nice and that's fine and that's old. Because really, when it comes down to it, is first they came for the people with the guns. And I wasn't a gun owner, and I did nothing. So then they came for whoever the fuck they wanted to come for.
Well, and you take a look at it. They had very, very distinct rules about who should own a firearm, and you know, it was if you didn't serve the state, there was no necessity for you to own a firearm. So when you take a look at it like that, and you put that in the context of modern gun control, there's a nexus there, and I think you'd be pretty naive not to see the connection.
I'm telling you, if you don't see the fact that they want to take your gun and then put you under the control of somebody who's got your best interest, quote unquote, for you, looking out for you, well, you're almost a dummy and you deserve it. Please listen to the song. It plays twice during the show, and the lyrics are pretty clear. Buy a gun.
Yeah. Buy a gun, buy yourself some ammo, and lo and behold, teach a youngster how to handle a firearm responsibly. Remove the stigma that is constantly bombarding them about firearms. Eliminate the lie and teach them that it is a tool to be used responsibly, and it is a tool that at one day may have to be used to save their life or the lives of someone they love.
Well, I'll tell you what, eliminate the lie. I'm all about that because the greatest weapon we have is education and truth. And I'll tell you
Think
what,
of the children.
A 9mm in your back pocket doesn't hurt none.
Yeah, it's funny. Before we get the bumper out of here, I was open carrying the other day, and somebody came up to me and asked me, "Why are you carrying? What are you afraid of?" And I just said, "Absolutely nothing."
That's the way to be. That's the way to be.
I felt so liberated saying that.
No, I'm glad you said that. Maybe that will make that fella go home and think a little bit. What is he scared of?
Well, and that's the thing. You could see the gaze, the eyes glazed over for a second, and he didn't know how to respond as I politely kept walking. So
good for you.
Yeah.
Now, did he become threatening in your face at any point?
Absolutely not, because Para Ordnance 45 GI Expert doesn't take any shit from anybody. So, Michael, I want to say thank you. Chris, thanks for listening, buddy. Jules, thank you for the platform. Hey, we had a great audience tonight, guys. Buy a gun.
UCY.TV, thank you very much, everybody. Stick around.